Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports. When
It comes to
Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
TexAgs Live.
I feel like I should be listening to the theme song from the Jeffersons. You know, we're moving on up.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
It's a blessing to be in this position, and we're just thankful to be here. We're thankful to have the opportunity to go out there and play in front of the 12 man.
He is a guy that has gotten better and better and better. He's just got that dog in him.
It's been special. The 12th man this past week was unbelievable.
And this is a real program. It's not fake. This is a real place. And if you want to be really good at football, this is a really good place to be.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
Hey, everybody. When I walked into the studio today, or actually when Olin walked in, Olin and I just connected eyes. We just kind of, it wasn't like a laugh of fun. It was just a laugh of, well, here we are. Here we are on a Monday. By the way, I'd like to welcome the entire SEC who's watching the show today and the Texas Longhorn fans that are watching and everybody else watching because they love Aggie misery. Buddy, a disappointing weekend is, there's no sugarcoating. This has been, we'll talk about it. Since I've been at TexAgs, I think this is the most disappointing season. I've only been at TexAgs 4 seasons, right? But I've been an Aggie basically since I was 7 years old. And I know there's a couple other seasons we can discuss, but it feels like the most disappointing sports season, at least since I've been in the media for A&M sports. I know the 2002-2003 year was terrible. I know there's some others we can discuss, maybe because I live it every day.
Yeah, I think it's what it is.
But, and some people say, what about 22-23? I think that was a terrible year too. Don't get me wrong. But there's a theme in all of this, OB, and we'll talk about it throughout the show. It's called not finishing.
Oh, yeah. Well, they did finish.
Not finishing the way we want them to. How about that?
That's for sure. Look, when you're in big games, sometimes we've all seen it. An obscure or a lesser player, a role player, breaks out. Mm-hmm. But typically, when you're in big games, in big moments, your star players have to play like star players, and that did not happen this year in baseball, and that didn't happen this weekend in softball.
Right.
You know, I mean, you had a chance you had the lead late in the game, and you couldn't hold it. And I think that's 2 games that they lost to Liberty that they had the lead and couldn't hold it. So there you go.
Yeah, not the best weekend for Emily Kennedy, not the best weekend for A&M softball and women's tennis. I'm not mad at them, by the way. Congratulations on a phenomenal season.
Losing the national championship.
Lose to a rival that you guys have gone toe-to-toe the last few years. So congratulations to Mark Weaver and the women's tennis team. I know they finished short of what their goal and their dream was, but it's still a fantastic year. In the big picture of things, what has happened on Diamond Sports this year is, I mean, I wouldn't have believed it, thank you, had I read it before the season. Maybe I would have believed it. Actually, you know what? I mean, I wouldn't have wanted to believe it, but I'd be like, God, I could see that happening. God, not us. Please, no. And it was us. Just a very disheartening calendar.
Well, without a doubt. And, you know, but we're not act like that, you know, volleyball didn't have a great year. That, you know, have we gotten so, and men's basketball was disappointing, but this is Texas A&M. Have we gotten to the point now that winning a game in the NCAA tournament is a disappointment? I hope so, but this is not a program that has a great history of going deep into the tournament.
Here's my why, though.
Because you expected more this year.
My evolving expectations, okay? Because had you told me A&M softball lost in the regional before the season started, I would have been like, that sucks, but okay, they're a new program. But because they were the overall #1 seed, right? Basketball, I had these high expectations, and then I kind of went down. I went high and I went low, and evolving expectations of a veteran-laced team. Football, had you told me A&M went 8-4 in the regular season when
in August,
I would have been like, this is a really good first year.
For first year.
But they were 7-1.
Right.
So the evolving expectations.
Oh, I get it. I get all that.
Is what.
And softball was in a great situation, and they can't blame anybody but themselves.
Right.
I know that in some of the games there was some umpiring that made me scratch my head, but the bottom line is you had the lead. You can't walk people. Is it walks and home runs?
Liberty played like the #1 team in the country.
They played hard. They wouldn't go away. They hit the ball solidly. They outplayed A&M. They played better than Texas A&M. So here, just from the softball point of view, what are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen Virginia, the year we were there, we watched them lose to Baltimore County. The next year they came back and won the national championship. It wasn't the championship game, but Michigan in football. They lose that game to TCU in the playoff. The next year they came back and won the national championship.
Yep.
What do you do with this? I remember when A&M lost 77-0 to Oklahoma, and I was talking to Jackson Apel after the game, and he says, this is the game that you think about in July when it's hot, you've been working out, you don't want to work out anymore, and then you go some more because it's this game. What do you do with this? And A&M, by the way, after that.
Do kids still think that way?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I would like to think if, you're still a competitor.
Yeah.
So I do wonder. I mean, it can be the type of thing that you lose a game like that and it sets your program back and it's hard to rebuild from. I can give you advanced examples of how that's happened, but I won't for the sake of time. So it's going to really be interesting to see what Tricia Ford can do with this.
Yeah. Let's hear from Tricia Ford yesterday because she just flat out said it. They were better.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of put ourselves in that spot, to be honest with you. I just, it's hard for me to, there was so much good about this season, and it's just hard because of how this finished, I think Liberty did a heck of a job. They're always scrappy, just how, their coaches. And, yeah, I mean, I think that, I'll be able to look back and kind of see some things that maybe we could have done differently and, hopefully have a different outcome. I mean, these kids worked their tails off all year. They earned everything that was given to them. And we also earned this loss. I mean, that's unfortunate, but, it wasn't on my bingo card, to be honest with you.
And maybe that was part of the problem. You always say, it's not, there's no question in my mind who's the better team, but who was the better team that day?
That weekend.
And, and maybe that's part of the problem. If so, I didn't think there was any way we could lose. I'm not blaming Tricia. I'm just saying maybe there's a mentality that went through the whole team this week. And I wonder if how this. I know baseball is that the majority of the Aggie fan base is more passionate about baseball than softball. I get that, but I wonder how this compares to the super regional loss to LSU way back in the day. When you were #1 and all that. Maybe it's different because it was in super regional, but.
Well, yeah,
and LSU's
LSU,
right? I get it.
Like,
but I don't know if you heard the guy on the call reminding us like every 2 seconds that no team that was the #1 seed had ever lost in the.
Yeah, why'd you have to remind me?
Because it's been put in my brain so many times by the guy calling.
Yeah, look.
I felt like it was a brainwashing situation.
I hope all my Aggie teams wear their failures on their shirt, on their sleeve, on the walls of the room every day of their off season. I hope. I don't know how kids are wired these days. Okay, I can only hope for that. I guarantee you, Tricia Ford is. Guarantee you, she's going to wear this every day this offseason. There's no doubt in my mind, just like she wore the loss of the 4 outs against Texas. So I hope that this offseason, for all Aggie athletics, right? Like your failures should drive you every day, every single day. But we are here now just a few hours after being the overall number 1 seed to be eliminated on a weekend where baseball, by the way, had baseball not lost to Missouri last week, I think I can stomach what happened at Georgia. But they lost to Missouri. Oh, by the way, Missouri sucked. They weren't supposed to lose to Missouri, just like we weren't supposed to lose to Liberty, just like we weren't supposed to lose to Michigan with a double-digit lead. And Michigan was a very good team, don't get me wrong. But my point is, that adds to the misery. We shouldn't have lost to USC in football. We shouldn't have. Shouldn't have lost to Auburn.
But they did. And so, you know what? But what bothers me is, then I saw a thread on our message boards. What sport should we pay attention to now? I'm like, all of them. And so then, of course,
we got men's golf still playing.
Yeah, then of course we had people come at me, and I'm like, are you so emotionally fragile? I get it. The battered Aggie syndrome, that when you are disappointed that you just, like, my wife has got to be disappointed with me. You know, when she married me, I was kind of Nuño-esque in my physique, and now I'm a big fat old guy. And you know what? She sticks with me. And there's no telling the level of disappointment she's had over the last 20
Jimmy didn't do the dishes.
But she sticks with me.
He's out.
Yet, so you had some disappointment. It's been a disappointment but you're just going to say, okay, I don't know that I can support the team anymore. No. I just don't get that.
Look.
What that makes me do is want to support them more.
I like that. Yeah.
Because then when they break through, it's going to be that much better.
Does it bug you? It doesn't really bug me, by the way. I'm just asking this question. People who probably didn't watch any softball this year all of a sudden become Johnny Loudmouth.
Well, of course, I don't know if they, who that would be, and I'm not saying, but no, because I know fans.
It's called being a fan, right?
Yeah, I know fans.
And if we can take you late in the game when we're winning, we can take you late in the game when we're losing.
Yeah.
And look, disappointing year, and as an athletic program, the entire athletic program, probably got to look in the mirror and say, what are we doing wrong, and how do we fix?
Well, again, I know I'm oversimplifying it, but in big games, your big players have to play big. And that hasn't been the case in baseball most of the year. Oh, there was a time, but most of the year, some of your star players either have been hurt and out or just haven't performed.
Back to that theme, right? Because we're not finishing well. Baseball started poorly, but made me believe. They brought me back in like Al Pacino, Michael Corleone in Godfather 3, right? They brought me back in, only to not finish the regular season well. We will see what happens tomorrow and the rest of the way. I'm not optimistic, as a lot of people aren't, but I'm going to still watch. I'm still going to enjoy every home run, every success. But the finish part of baseball was not there.
The start wasn't there.
The start and the finish. Bookend, right?
The finish wasn't there in football. That's been a recurring theme for years. Every now and then there's been a difference, but November, what we say, they put the no in November. Basketball, had they beaten Michigan and lost the next game, I would have said, hey, they made it to the second weekend. It was a good year. But
does it make it?
I think track and field is good. I think golf is good. I think tennis is good. I think, I don't know, got to be honest, I don't know about swimming. I don't know what they're doing. I think equestrian's good.
It's always good, yeah. But does it make me ask you this question? This is for the audience, too.
Your high-profile sports have got to be better.
And I do not want to lead this movement, so I maybe shouldn't even bring this topic up, but I'm just going to ask it out loud because I'm what do you call it? I'm in mourning for Aggie softball right now, right? But does it make it almost like, I don't care what you do in the regular season. Like, cool, you're number one. I care what you do at the end. Like, does it make it almost like, because football was really good until the end, and all these sports, like, okay, cool, like we had a nice regular season, but what are we doing when it matters?
Yes, and quite frankly, that's what I want as a program. I want it to be what you do in the playoffs is really ultimately what matters. I know Buzz Williams was saying, they lost that game, but it doesn't taint the rest of the season because they did so many.
Taints the rest of the season.
It does. Because if you're a big time pro, you think at Duke in basketball, if they if they do okay, but don't win, multiple games of tournament that they think it's good. The guys we don't like, 90 miles away.
You can enjoy individual moments and individual successes, but I'm sorry, when mediocrity is okay, that's a problem.
That team that we don't like, their coach in basketball, did they not get into the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, they got it.
Yeah. And they got into the tournament, and they didn't do well. They fired him.
Yeah.
So
they fired their baseball coach last year.
I want a program that expects its coach getting into the playoffs. That's what an expectation. That should be with all the advantages you have here. That should be okay. You just did the bare minimum there. Yeah. So yes, it absolutely should be based on what you do in the postseason. And a lot of coaches don't like that. A lot of coaches. I'm not saying here, but a lot of coaches preach accountability, but don't like themselves being held accountable.
See, this is what I think you're the same. Whatever you think as Joe fan or Joe coach, cool. I have my thoughts. To me, it's about the postseason. But if you have a different point.
Now, if you take over a struggling program, then there's grace there.
Bucky's going to have, not that A&M is a struggling program, but Bucky's going to have a little bit more grace than Michael Earley. That's a fact.
Absolutely.
Based on the situation that they inherited.
Right. But at some point, Bucky, like everybody else, is going to have to win. And at some point, he's going to be judged by what you do in the postseason.
Absolutely. All right. You can be a part of the show if you want. This is TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're in the Rollo Insurance Studio. It is the Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. Currently, we're hanging out at the Holistic Planning Cool Zone. If you want to be a part of the conversation, call us up at 979-693-1150. That is the Buppy's Catering Hotline. How do you feel about this calendar year? I know how you feel, but just tell us how you feel. And is this the worst calendar sports year at A&M since when?
I don't know, but I've lived through some football years that weren't very good. At the same time, when Melvin Watkins, basketball, and the baseball was good but not great.
Based on expectations, maybe though. Like based on where we expect, not based on just the results, based on where you thought your team was going, maybe even late in the season.
Well, that's definitely the case for
football.
Well, I don't know if you said yourself that your expectations changed, but when you open the season, 8-4.
But what I just said though was late in the season. In November, I was up until the Texas game, we might go to the SEC championship.
Yes, but I think you have to look at what your expectations were at the beginning of the year to decide whether they met, didn't meet, or exceeded.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I as a human have evolving expectations as the year goes on.
I understand that. Yeah. I do too.
Yeah. So 979-693-1150. That's the Buffy's Catering Hotline. Let's go behind the glass and talk to Nick Savage. Nick's a big softball guy. Nick, rough one this weekend.
Yeah, and I think it kind of stings the most just because, and y'all can tell me if I'm wrong here, but it feels like the way this past calendar year has gone for athletics, it felt like, and I get men's golf still playing, women's tennis, great team, but it just felt like, Aggie softball was the one thing that we kind of had left to really get behind and root for and watch throughout the thing, and it's just disappointing how it ended. But I'm not worried about that program one bit. Trisha Ford's going to have that team turn right back around, and like you said, she's an excellent motivator. So it's something to unfortunately motivate with, but I'm not worried about that program whatsoever.
The wound is too fresh to know how I really feel long term. This one's going to sting, though, regardless. It's going to sting.
Of course it is, because even if it's not one of the more higher profile sports, and it's getting more of that, but I'm rooting for A&M in everything.
Yeah.
Even the sports I don't see. I've never once been out to equestrian. Do they call them meet? Do they call them meets? They call them what's an equestrian competition?
Event.
What is it? I've never been to an equestrian event, but I hope that Texas A&M wins, and their horses win every single equestrian event.
Call them events. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center, making his debut on the program. Reese Nygren is in the house.
Yeah, what a day to make your debut.
Reese, talk to us, buddy. You're at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Where are you from?
I'm from LaGrange, Texas.
And
you don't.
When you were preparing for your first hit today, right, over the weekend, were you starting to realize, oh my gosh, I'm about to do a hit on a weekend of a lot of eyeballs for different reasons?
Yeah, I was preparing stuff and I was like, we're going to have a lot of listeners from the Austin area and other SEC schools. And it was going to be a tough day to be on air because everybody was going to be watching to see how we feel.
We're very blessed to do what we do, all of us, right? So we're blessed to talk Aggie sports. There's good days, there's rough days. What news do you have for us? Because there was some good stuff in sports this weekend and also some heartbreaking ones.
There was some good stuff. We'll start it off with men's golf. They're in the Auburn Regional, and they are one of only 2 teams to register under par, them and the host Auburn. They posted a 1 under 287 at the par 72. They own a 1 under the 575 after 2 circuits, and the team is 8 strokes under the cutoff for advancing to the NCAA Championship.
They did advance.
Okay, they did.
Yes, they did advance like a while ago. So we're going to have Brian Kortan on the show in about 24 minutes. All right, give us something from over the weekend.
So the track and field competed at the SEC tournament. The men finished in 4th place with 77 points, and the women finished in 2nd place with 81.5 points. Sam Whitmarsh defended his 800-meter crown running a 1 minute 45-second time, the first Aggie to defend the title since Devin Dixon from 2017 to 2019. On the women's side, Winnie B jumped a personal best 14.01 meters. Her leap was the best wind legal mark in the event and broke the Kenyan outdoor national record and jumped her to number 2 in A&M history.
We've got to hit a break here in a second. Just give us an update on women's tennis. We know we already touched that they didn't win, but I know you have some notes on it.
They beat number 3 Michigan 4-1 in the Final Four to advance to play number 1 Georgia, where they ended up losing 4-0. So,
like I said, I don't ever want to lose, but if I lose, I want it to be in the national championship game.
Yeah, losing sucks. All right, we'll hit a break. When we come back, we'll probably get to some text messages, some more thoughts. Again, as I mentioned, Brian Kortan. There is we got to be in a better mood for Kortan. I mean, they're still playing.
Yeah.
And they got a chance. So we'll talk with Kortan at 8:45. Right now, let's talk about keeping water local. It's not just any water. It's the water in Brazos and Robertson County. Water isn't something that just comes out of the taps. It's the lifeblood of everything we love about home. And right now, out-of-town interests are eyeing our water, threatening our community. So I want you to consider joining Keep Water Local, a group of neighbors fighting to protect what matters most. If you care about this community, I know many of you do, realize it's not just about the water. It's about preserving the farms, the businesses, and the Aggie spirit that makes this place so great. Losing control of the water means losing the future. If you want to make a difference, head to keepwaterlocal.org. Get involved, and let's keep our water right here where it belongs, local. It's Keep Water Local. An event. An equestrian event. We're on the air, by the way. You can tell the people. Oh, it's okay. You don't have to apologize.
Whenever you meet an equestrian, I know we were talking about it in the holistic planning area, that if you meet for 3 days, it's called an eventing. An equestrian.
I apologize for not knowing that.
I didn't know that either. I had to do a quick Google search.
Welcome into TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. He's Olin Buchanan.
I am. He's David Nuño.
I'm David Nuño. What did Richard Zane say to you a minute ago?
Oh, I don't know. I don't pay attention to Richard.
You looked sad.
Yeah, he was saying I look depressed or something. I'm like, maybe it's just because I'm old, but I'm not depressed. I was frustrated. But like I said, you move on and you go back to work, right?
Yeah.
And
can I read Christian's
yes, please do.
YouTube page? Christian B on the YouTube page. I normally appreciate Nuño's ability to stay positive for the most part, but damn, someone put their foot down the throat and make a point. What is the point that I did not make? That this season has sucked? Fairly sure I made that point. Christian, by the way, I feel your pain. But like, what do you want me to say? Fire everybody! I'm not gonna just, like, I don't know about you, but in business, I typically try not to react on emotion immediately. Now, as a fan, I do, right? But I'm saying from a business point of view, what do you want me to say, Christian? Was there one, like, honestly, Christian, I would like for you to do me a favor. I love your name, by the way. That's my son's name. Go see, what do you call it when the audiologist, when they check your ears?
An ear test?
An ear test. Go get an ear test. Because if you heard positivity at all, you need help, brother. I'm down. I'm disappointed. I'm disgusted.
You got that from me, the positivity. I had a dose of positivity.
I'm not, like, going to punch myself in the face because of the results of Aggie. I'm not there's nothing happy about it. Like, if you heard that, Christian, then you're listening to the wrong show. I'm being dead serious. I am not happy about anything. Like, here's my point. This year has sucked. Point. Headline. Over.
Okay.
But I'm sorry that men's golf is still playing sports, and I hope they keep winning.
I'm not sorry. Yeah,
actually. And track and field, men and women.
I hope they win the national championship.
Right? So, like, if we're talking about, like, I have 4 kids, okay?
Yeah.
And let's say 3 of them do really well on the report card and 1 doesn't.
Yeah.
Do I not talk about the 3? Actually, I should probably reverse the numbers.
Oh,
let me take that. You want me to take it for you? Let me just take it. I'll take it for you.
No, gosh.
I just want to answer
something from a senior citizen.
Well,
hey, I'm not there yet. I do park in the good spots at HEB.
Yeah. Anyway, look, it is without a doubt disappointing. I am sad. And that's all you can say. It sucked. What else can I say? This year has sucked in A&M sports for the most part.
There has been a lot of suckage, but there's been, like my point was, and maybe he meant me instead of you. I acknowledge that there's been disappointment and suckage. What I'm saying is there have been good moments, and you mentioned golf and tennis, and I think equestrian was good, and men's basketball to some degree. So,
but men's basketball to me was a disappointment.
It was, but it wasn't. But it wasn't a disaster.
No. But it was, to me, I was disappointed with the way the season ended.
I was expecting them to go to the second round, to the second weekend.
I was too. It was a disappointing season. Football absolutely has some great moments, right?
Mm-hmm.
I thought, even though I had a flu, COVID, and pneumonia all at the same time in Gainesville, that was a great weekend for Aggie football.
Right.
Yes, you can almost like find moments and be like, yeah, that was good. This was bad. Here's my point, and I did make this point, Christian. The end of these seasons have sucked. They've all sucked. That's what they have in common. And to me, it doesn't mean losing like women's tennis. It sucked that they didn't win the national championship. Extremely successful season.
Mm-hmm.
One little bit away from winning it all again, back-to-back years. It's not all about winning it all that makes me happy or unhappy. I'm making the point of a lot of these sports have not played their best when it matters most.
Did not reach. Definitely didn't, and didn't. didn't reach expectations.
Yeah.
True.
Let's read another text, shall we?
So Randy Etheridge in
Randy.
in the YouTube chat said, "This is by far the worst year in Aggie sports I've ever seen. Football, basketball, baseball, softball all had natty dreams to fall off of a cliff and crumble under the weight of expectations."
Well, Randy's a Longhorn, so I don't think he can speak for the group, just like I can't speak for the
football. Really have national championship dreams? I don't. And basketball, I never thought they could win a national championship. I was just hoping for the second.
No, but I mean,
baseball, absolutely.
Baseball, absolutely.
And softball, absolutely.
But I guess his point is in football, when you're 7-1, that's in the SEC.
Yeah.
You have now, at that point, you're like, dude, I could see a situation where we get the playoffs and we just roll, get the right matchups. That's what he means by it. But I never really believed A&M was going to win a national championship in football or basketball.
I was hoping that they would get into the playoff.
Yeah.
And then everything else after that would be gravy. And had they made it even further, that would have been awesome. But obviously, I think, again, I'll come back. If you just win at Auburn, I think we're looking at, and they didn't, but if you do, you're looking at, if they had gone 9-4 or 9-3 in the regular season, you're looking at everything completely different about football.
Yeah. All right, let's hit a break here. We'll come back with another segment. Then we'll have Brian Kortan on. Look, I'm going to make a point. I'm going to make a point. I like to eat barbecue at 1775. That's my point. And they finish.
Yeah, well, I got to tell you, I should have known. I got a omen for the weekend because I went out there Friday to eat barbecue. I took my son.
Yeah.
And so meeting IDOC Mike, and we got out there and it was closed.
Oh.
Because they were preparing for Troubadour Fest.
Oh, of course.
Which was awesome, by the way.
How was that?
It was great.
Yeah.
Hot.
Yeah.
But it was great. I've got an amazing farmer stand. So that probably should have prepared me that things aren't going to go the way I want them this weekend.
But it just makes you want it more.
It makes me want it more.
Yeah.
And you know what? The next day I was able to get a taste, but not the full experience. Kind of like what we had in, baseball and softball. We got the taste. They won that second game.
Yeah.
The women won, came, but didn't get the complete experience. But I got a chance to go back this weekend and then I won't. I'll be in Baton Rouge. But I have an opportunity in the future to get the full experience, and I guarantee I will.
They're open Thursday through Saturday, 11 a.m. until they're sold out. 8203 Raymond Stoughton Parkway in College Station. Call 979-492-6241 or visit 1775txbbq.com. Welcome back in TexAgs Live, presented by David Garner's Jewelers Brawler Insurance Studio. Go Hour. I'm laughing just because I'm laughing at just how ridiculous it is. Like, it's not ridiculous. Like I said at the very beginning, we are very blessed to do this show. Regardless of what happens in Aggie sports, I am a very proud Aggie. Very proud of what our university means to me, my family, athletics, academics. I'm very proud. Okay? But just, I'm laughing at how, like, if I wrote a script, if I wrote a nightmare, it wouldn't be this bad.
Yeah, the thing that still bewilders me, I didn't even go to A&M, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of my you'd call me a T-shirt fan, I guess, if I didn't work at TexAgs.
Yeah.
I've liked A&M since '93 when I came down here for the first time and met people.
Yeah.
And yet, I still can't wrap I understand disappointment. I understand dejection, right? What I don't understand is the whole idea among some that there's no point even supporting the team anymore or the teams.
Yeah.
I'm always going to support them.
And another thing I don't understand is, like, why do and we don't need to spend a lot of time on this, but why do people have to be mean too?
Yeah, there's disappointment. I guess Aggies have so many. I shouldn't blanket all Aggies. There are some among the A&M population, I guess, that have been disappointed so often that their reaction goes beyond disappointment and becomes anger at anyone that, they're angry at TexAgs because, we report things. They're angry at one coach because...
One guy's mad at us for moderating. I don't even moderate.
They're mad at one coach because, they made this decision and maybe it did cost them a game. But, all right, Tricia Ford. I'm sorry, I don't cover softball on a daily basis. So the starting pitcher in game 3, or the last game last night, she had pitched really well, but gave up a home run and a single. And it's in the 5th inning, right? So she goes to Emily Kennedy.
Yep.
And yes, Emily Kennedy had struggled in the first game, but this is your All-American. This is your player that you've leaned on to get you where you are in a big part. And because she has struggled, she's going to probably have looking for redemption, right? So she comes out and gets out of the inning. And then looks like, there's 2 outs in the 6th inning. And then she gives up the home run. And then it goes downhill from there. And I believe that every coach anywhere would have made the same move. Any coach anywhere.
Yeah,
look, I've got
player.
my All-American that just got taken in the pro softball draft and all that, and I need at that time 7 outs to win. Yeah, I'm gonna go with her. I think she did, and then when it started deteriorating, she made another move, and
we got to hit a break here because we're gonna have Brian Kortan here in a couple of minutes. I do want to say this. Justin Lampkin, we have not spent any time on you because all the other stuff. What and we will talk about it. Coach Earley will be joining us. But what a freaking performance.
Yeah.
And look, I know the weekend did not finish.
3-hit shutout.
15 strikeouts.
Went the distance.
I mean, he was, so thank you so much for, you deserve more time than you've gotten so far. And I know it's about the big picture of Aggie baseball. I recognize that. But on an individual basis, that's a performance that I'm going to remember for forever. That was that good of a performance.
Has he become the best pitcher?
Might be. Remember, we were talking about on Friday about people who met or exceeded expectations, and I think the way we left it on Friday was he had met expectations. That performance puts it over the top. So congratulations to Justin Lampkin on a great performance. Aggie baseball still has a lot of work to do and not a lot of time. All right, we'll hit a break here. We'll come back with Brian Kortan. Bird Dog is revolutionizing ranch management and honey access. They're Aggie-owned and operated company. They don't just connect hunters with premium hunting experiences. They've now expanded their services to help landowners maximize profits through specialized tax optimization. You can unlock hidden value on your property. Some of their clients are earning an extra $100 to $500 per acre of land. They have expert navigation of agricultural exemptions, wildlife management, and tax benefits. They connect with qualified hunters throughout an established booking platform. This weekend, I'm going to go with my boys in Bird Dog to have an awesome fishing experience. I think it's going to be great. I'll be able to report back on it, but they do everything. The website is birddogit.com. That website again, birddogit.com.
Let's talk a little Snaps clothing. David Nuño here, and I love wearing Snaps clothing everywhere. I've got the flannel on right now. You've seen me in the Tailgater collection with the A&M gear. It is fantastic. If you see me around town with my sons, Christian and Cruz, they've got a bunch of Snaps gear. When they have big games for Consol, they wear nice clothes, so they wear their Snap stuff. And I'm telling you, with baseball season here, let's all kind of go looking stylish and fit to the games there at Olson wearing the Snaps clothing. As a reminder, they are the only official licensed Texas A&M Pearl Snaps maker out there. Their Tailgater collection is built for game day with breathable, moisture-wicking fabrics to keep you comfortable while you rep your Aggies in style. Now, whether you're watching the game from home or maybe you're in attendance, you're tailgating, whatever it may be, you got to make sure you head to snapsclothing.com to see everything they have to offer. It is fashionable, it is awesome, and you're going to love it.
TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance, Studio OB, Nuño. Let's go straight to the Buppy's Catering Hotline. We're joined by Brian Kortan to talk a little Aggie men's golf as they head to Carlsbad a little bit later today. Coach Kortan, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Great. Thanks for making a few minutes for us. So just your thoughts on how it all kind of finished there with Auburn and now heading on to Carlsbad.
Yeah, regionals, it's an interesting deal. I mean, you're excited to be there, but you're also, you see all the things that can happen. But the guys did one heck of a job, stayed the course. And obviously they're really good on their home golf course. They made the rest of us look like we were playing a different course. But to do what we did and just steady and right where we needed to be the whole time and come out of there finishing second and beating a lot of good teams along the way, it's just another step in the development of these guys and the improvements they've made, and it just puts them in a position to do what we signed up for, which is go to Carlsbad and chase the big trophies.
Well, and it seemed like you all never panicked after a rough first round. What was kind of said? What was the mood from that point on?
Yeah, I mean, I think as a team we knew we were we were a little loose that first round, but I mean which is kind of how sometimes it goes, but. You know, we didn't shoot ourselves in the foot or anything. We were right there where we needed to be. And we don't panic. We got a bunch of mature guys, and each day they got more and more comfortable on the golf course. And I mean, I don't think they were worried too much about playing good golf. I mean, as a coach, I think that was my job to worry a little bit. But got a ton of confidence in those guys, and I knew that they would, that they would come out in the end doing what we needed to do.
very clean golf in that final round. Just talk about finishing so strong.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I mean, if we finish that second round off a little better, then the third round would have been just a kind of a completely relaxing situation. But yeah, no, finishing rounds of golf in college golf is what it is a huge piece, because you're counting 4 scores, 5 guys. If you stay the course and complete those rounds, and keep putting good scores on the board, it goes really a long way. So for the guys to know that and do that, and step up to those situations, it's great to see.
Talk about building this program and 4 straight times to get to the NCAA tournament or to this part of it, and just how you have seen this group grow with different faces, different leaders, and but very similar results.
Yeah, I mean, those of us that have small teams, I mean, the transitions are pretty quick. I mean, because you have guys that are here for 4 years and then they're gone, and and you don't have a ton of options, so to speak. I mean, we have 9 guys, and some are freshmen and some are really young, and then you got some guys that are older that transition into more leadership roles. So the growth comes from the established culture, and in the recruitment process they know what's expected, and and they grab hold to it and do their part to grow it. But yeah, it's guys move in and out. I mean, 4 years. I mean, like P's gone already. P's this is his last tournament. Michael's last tournament. Vish is going this week. It's to be with us, and we got new guys coming in next year, and yeah, it keeps evolving and keeps going. But the thing that holds true is the culture piece and who we are and how we go about our business, and trusting that Coach Fast and myself will do everything we can to for the growth throughout the year and improvement throughout the year, so we can compete in the end.
Talk to us a little bit more about Michael and P and some of your veteran players who this is it. Like, this is their final go.
This is their final go, and they've meant so much. I mean, and I think and obviously A&M's meant a lot to them. So yeah, it's bittersweet when you see them. I mean, sometimes more bitter than sweet, sometimes more sweet than bitter. But yeah, it's tough because what they meant to the program, and as a coach, I mean, as soon as we finish in Carlsbad, whatever that is, I mean, Fast and I'll be sitting down figuring out how we get back here, and those guys have been huge pieces. Michael's been amazing this year, and especially the spring, and P's been P for 2 years, where he's been one of the best players in college golf. So now it's time for those guys to transition out, and then you're going to have guys like Aaron and Wheaton and Jaime who've got to step up and take those roles, and take those. Take that and really run with it in terms of continuing the culture, continuing, the Aggie way, and pushing that on the guys that are behind them. So it's a constantly evolving program, but with some very sound, principles and culture. So it's great.
Talk to us a little bit about Carlsbad, of course, and just some of the characteristics potentially that could play to your team's strengths.
It's a big golf course. You got to hit a lot of drivers, which, I mean, when we're playing well, we're good with the golf ball. So, driving it is a thing that that we emphasize, because we play traditions where you got to drive the golf ball great. So, yeah, if you drive in the fairway out there and can control your golf ball on the scoreable holes, which when you get wedges and short clubs in your hands, you got a chance to shoot some scores out there. But it's a challenge. I mean, it'll be firm. There'll be some rough. It'll have some good length to it. So you're going to have to be ready to go in all phases for sure.
How does your approach change or transition from regional play to NCAA championship format?
It really doesn't change a ton, because you're still pushing the same buttons. I mean, you're still trying to get the guys to play the right way and execute at a really high level. So you try to get as comfortable as you can with what's going on, and you try to block out where you're at and kind of handle the job in front of you, which is, it's playing for the 4 guys and playing with that maroon on and go out there and do the best you can to put the score on that we need.
Feel good where you are?
I do. I mean, we've ascended up the ladder a good bit. Like we talked about, from where we started in Sahali, where we got our tail kick the first term of the year, to where we are now, being the 10 seed at the national championship. I mean, it's a tribute to the effort these guys have put in. They're great kids, and they'll fight their tails off this week. I know they will.
Coach Kortan, thanks for making a few minutes before you head out. Best of luck to you. Thank you for giving me something good to talk about, and we'll be rooting you on, man.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Talk soon.
Thank you. Brian Kortan here on TexAgs Live. We'll get them on right when they get back, hopefully with a national championship. We'll hit a break. And OB, I think we said it all this hour.
Yeah, vented a lot.
Yeah.
And that's okay. People need to vent. But then you got to move on and just keep rebuilding and use the disappointment as fuel to get better.
Yeah, we will. Thank you, OB. Appreciate you. When we come back here on TexAgs Live, Michael Earley getting ready for the SEC tournament. We'll have Bronny in studio. We'll chit-chat about the weekend in Georgia and beyond. You're listening to TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers in the Rollo Insurance Studio. And we're back, TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Hour number 2, Ryan Browninger is in studio. Talk a little baseball. It's time for our weekly conversation with Michael Earley, brought to you by Duck Camp. Duck Camp is known for the best moments happening out there on the boat, casting a line, or hauling in the catch of the day. Be sure to check out the Duck Camp new spring hats like the fan favorite crawfish hat and the redfish hat at duckcamp.com. With that, we go to the Buffy's Catering Hotline. We are joined by Michael Earley. Coach Earley, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So just talk about the mindset transitioning from win or go home. Like, that's it. That's the part of the season we're at now, and just everything that's at stake.
Yeah, I mean, it's a similar. You still play the game to play the game, and you don't think about the next one. But there's got to be that sense of urgency in that fight when you're in a tournament setting to survive and advance, so to speak. So it's I mean, we're excited to get out there and play. That's for sure.
Coach, your weekend in Athens, I think if you just took a snapshot of it by itself away from the rest of the season, you'd look at it and you would go, man, pretty competitive on the road at RPI number 1. Is that kind of how you have to pull positives out of this back half stretch? The Missouri and Georgia weekend is like you just try to look at snapshots and you look at what Lampkin did, and then the outings from Fresh Corn, and then some of the big swings from Cash. Is that kind of where you're at right now?
Yeah, I mean, you gotta definitely keep working and fixing things, but yeah, you gotta take positives, and you hope you expand on them. Like, you hope Gavin Cash continues to have the at bats he's having, especially with Caden Sorrell being out, and Justin Lampkin. I want to see him pitch again. I mean, hopefully you see that guy on the mound again Friday. So you're just really you got to draw from his positives, and it's the time of year where you got to find confidence, and you got to find a vibe and a spark that just keeps you rolling into the next game.
Yeah, and I want to talk to you about, obviously we'll get into Lampkin's performance, but in his post game he said that after Thursday night y'all went in and tried to fix some things. You guys know how hard Georgia goes at tipping pitches. I'm not asking you to kind of reveal all your secrets, but what were some of the things that maybe y'all talked about that y'all could clean up? Because the Bulldogs barely swung and missed on Thursday night, and then they started swinging and missing a lot more on Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, they are very good at that, and we were just able to do some, just mix up how you set, just different stuff, just so they weren't able to consistently try to steal his pitches. I don't know why. Baseball coaches were all paranoid. So I might play Georgia again at some point. But yeah, I mean, just moving stuff around and trying to make it hard on them, and just not getting caught in a pattern with how you do things, which is, if you watch baseball enough, you can go to a game and you can find something on every single guy. So it's just about continuing to change it up, and something you should do all the time, but just definitely more emphasis on it against them.
Again, I'm not trying to bury the lead with Lampkin, but I do want to talk about in game 1, you start going to some right-handers who we haven't seen a lot in SEC play, and they give you good innings. And I thought really Fresh Corn on Saturday was unlucky in his outing. He had that ball bounce on the turf that was just got the ground ball that he wanted. But kind of take me through your thought process of going with Lyons, Cunningham, and then Fresh Corn, and then what'd you see out of those guys? I think Gavin Lyons keeps taking steps in the right direction.
Yeah, no, they did an awesome job. I mean, Gavin Lyons, you're right. He just continues to get better and better and grow, and continue to throw him out there and give him the ball. And Fresh Corn has, over the last couple of weeks, started throwing a cutter, which has really been a really, really good pitch for him, a pitch he can throw in any count. And then the fastball has had some life to it. And Cunningham did a decent job too. So just, we need those guys because, we plan on playing deep in this tournament, and someone's going to have to merge. There's going to have to be a storyline of someone who hasn't pitched or one of those things to win this thing. So you're going to keep getting those guys out there and get them ready to go.
And then from your vantage point, just talk about Lampkin. I mean, I was going back through it, Mike, and might be the best start in Texas A&M's SEC history. You can talk about the Kyle Simons no-hitter, but considering that lineup at that ballpark, it was one of the best outings I've ever seen.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm trying to think back and not. Since I've been here, we've had some really good pitchers, and I don't want to discredit anything they've done or be prisoner of the moment. But I can't remember one better than that. Maybe Prager against Arkansas in that night game last year was similar. But when you take in the factors, which the ballpark and the wind do matter at a place like that, and playing them where you can throw the ball out from home plate out to the outfield. It's a really good place to hit, and a team that has a bunch of home runs, for him to just only give up no runs, 15 strikeouts, and just yeah, it was incredible. Like it was, I think in the 6th or 7th, I said, who's moving around down there? And JK said Moss and someone else. And I said, I just think we probably need to sit him down. It looks like this is this guy's game. And there was just no thought of going to anyone else. You know how it is. When you see an outing like that, you get a feeling of just control. And he had it, man. And that's just who that kid is. He's been just a constant professional since his day he's been here. His demeanor, nothing's changed. He's just grown confidence, grown better, got stronger, works extremely hard. I think I said it to Monaco before the game, before he even pitched. I'm really confident that Justin Lampkin's going to be a big leaguer. And it's because all the things, all the combinations. So having a guy like that on our team and having the guts he had to go out there and perform like that when we needed him just says everything you need to know about that kid.
Coach Earley, after having some lean weekends offensively, do you feel like the team has turned the corner with the 7 home runs over the weekend and cutting down the strikeouts from game 1 to the rest of the series?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I like to hope so. I think we've, guys continue to work and make adjustments, and you're never a finished product in baseball. I don't know if you ever completely fix it or you're done fixing it, or you're always going to have to go back and someone's always going to be struggling with something. But I think our confidence is in a solid spot, and we're just going to have to, at a ballpark like Hoover Met, you're going to have to stay on baseballs, low line drives, be able to bunt when we need to bunt if we have the opportunity. We don't have a ton of runners, so stealing bases isn't necessarily something. We're just going to have to get creative if the game allows us, and we need to get on base to put pressure on the other team, especially in a ballpark like this where you're not traditionally you don't slug and hit baseballs out of the park.
Coach, I want to talk, kind of dive inside baseball here. It's not something that we do often, but I want to talk about the mechanical changes with Jace. Obviously, you get some rhythm with his hands. You add more of a stride to try to get him separated and get him stretched out. But to me, and I'm sitting there watching it from my couch, you've obviously got a way better vantage point. It looks like maybe he's kind of struggling with his width and the timing of that stride, and he's maybe getting wider than he wants sometimes or not getting to where he needs to be on time. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I mean, I think, when we made this change before Missouri, it was, necessary, right? Like he was struggling as bad then as he is now, and he had a decent series against them. And yeah, he's just uncomfortable in general. I think if I spread him out the whole box, or if I put both his feet together or whatever, he's just in one of those funks where it doesn't matter what he does, he's just not finding it, and we got to get him, and we're trying to get him to just really simplify this thing and stay on fastballs and try to hit him in the opposite field gap, low line drives in the opposite field gap. And he's just in a funk, in a hitting funk, where he's taking fastball strikes and swinging at breaking ball balls, which is not what you should do. And he's not trying to do that. It's just, we got to get his confidence going, and he's got to step up to the plate like he's the best player on the field, because he usually probably is. And I think if he does that, and he just needs to find a barrel and hit a ball forward into the field and feel good about it, and then I think he'll get rolling again.
And then the Sorrell hand injury, what can you say? And then take me through the conversations when you went out there, because, me and you, we've seen it 1,000 times. Like when a guy reacts that way to a swing and he starts pointing that area of his hand, I think I thought it was a pretty safe assumption to assume that was a hamate injury.
Yeah, I mean, he's actually probably right now getting a bone scan here in Birmingham. I'm no doctor, but I had that same injury when I was in college. I've seen it a million times. I'm not saying it's that. I don't want to. I don't. I'm not too hopeful about this. I'm not sure, which sucks for him, because he's worked so hard to get back, and with the hamstring, and I feel bad for him and the team and everyone, because he's a huge part of our team, and it was tough. And especially when Caden Sorrell tells you he can't swing, he can't swing. There's no, as soon as he said that, I knew he was hurt, because he's about as tough as they come, and he'll be back though. He'll be healthy. If that's what it is, I don't want to speculate, because I don't know. It's not that big a deal. And it's something that, once you fix it, you can never hurt it again. But we'll see what the actual prognosis is once we get it back.
And then take me through kind of your vantage point of the play at third base in the finale. the rundown between home and third, and then nobody covering third on a return throw. What should have gone better there in your eyes?
I mean, a few things. I mean, number one, do it how it's worked on. I mean, it's real basic. I mean, Wyatt threw the ball and like continued to run, where he should have gave the ball up and got back to the base. Like he should have been there. And then two, like Kent's got to be closer to that play as well. So, but Wyatt, I mean, in a play like that, when the timing he threw it and where the runner was, there's no reason for Wyatt to vacate his spot. He should have thrown the ball and backpedaled and got back to where he needed to be.
Talking to Michael Earley here on TexAgs Live. Talk to me about the ballpark in Hoover and just how your team kind of adapts to that environment.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta play baseball. I mean, you just gotta know that fly balls are not conducive to winning, and neither are strikeouts. So just starting to have good at bats and continue to put pressure on the team when you can put pressure on them, and we have a chance to expand the lead. And it's a pretty big outfield, which for us defensively, I feel like we got if we're running Farr, Violet, and Keel out there, that's a really good outfield to play in this park. So just from an offensive standpoint, we just need to put pressure on the other team when we can and get on base and try to play clean baseball for 9 innings.
Coach, when you're looking at, I thought Bear had his best weekend in a while. What were some of the things that whenever he was going, he was scorching hot there early, mid SEC play, and then it tapers off. But when you're looking at it, the side-by-sides, were there some mechanical things that you thought maybe he wasn't getting to, or was it just a timing deal?
A little bit of both. I mean, he did have a little bit of stretch of bad luck. I mean, he hit a ball against Missouri, like 109 to dead center, that he, didn't hit hard enough to get through the wind. And he had some other good ones, but he just gets to a point sometimes where after his toe tap, as he taps back and goes forward, sometimes you'll see his head go with his front foot, and he kind of gets tied up. And when he keeps his head behind the baseball, and then stays behind, he does good. I mean, he's had some really good at bats, especially lately. But there was a little bit of that mechanic thing, but it's honestly been like that all year since he's been going. You see some at bats where he would get his head forward and get tied up, but he just fixed it a little quicker than he has now. So he's in a really good spot. I think I like where he is heading into this week.
Coach, last thing, we'll let you get out of here. Just me curious, like, what have you learned about you as a head coach through all this? Because, like, we've talked about it throughout the year. Me and you privately, we've asked you this probably, 4 or 5 times? Just like, how much have you learned over the past, not even this spring, but since you got in the chair to where you're at now?
Yeah, I learned a ton. It's been quite the experience for sure, and something that while it's tough and there's a lot of stress and sleepless nights, and you pour your life into this thing, you learn that you love it and you love doing it. And in the end, you got to win, right? I mean, that's part of it, and just being first year and just there's things that pop up that you couldn't possibly know, and you learn and you adjust and you adapt and you take notes and you fix it, and then you mess it up again, and then you fix it again, and you learn for the future and what you need to do to get better. And for me, my biggest, the thing that keeps me up at night, and I think the thing that keeps me going is my self-awareness. And I'm not an excuse maker. I don't blame players. I don't blame anyone but myself. So anything that's went wrong this year is my fault, and anything that's went well is because of the players. And that's how I'll continue to coach, and that's how it'll continue to be. And I just got to continue to grow and learn and develop these guys into not only great players but young men. And as it's been a tough year for us, we're not done and we're not out of it yet. And it's it's a joy coaching these guys no matter what, because I love them to death and I love my players, and I'm just ready to get out there and continue to battle with them this week.
Coach Earley, we appreciate your time, sir. Good luck this week.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Michael Earley on the Puppies Catering Hotline. We'll hit a break. We'll come back with a little bit more with Bronny. Right now, Caldwell Country Chevrolet, Highway 21 in Caldwell, online at caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. If you're looking for a selection that's not going to break the bank, you should check out Caldwell Country Chevrolet. They're stocking up on new vehicles right now. Their inventory is growing daily. That's what they do there. The real deal is they're south of those big city prices. No dealer add-ons. What you see is what you pay for. Their locally owned Aggie alumni team is ready to roll out the red carpet for you and talk about value. Every vehicle purchase comes with that free oil change for life. That's thousands in savings over the lifetime of that vehicle. And pre-owned inventory is moving fast, which means you'll get top dollar for your trade-in today. Remember, it's about a 15-minute drive the edge of Bryan to the beginnings of Caldwell. Short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. And we're back, TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Hour number 2 of the program. Bronny's still in studio.
How's your morning been?
It's interesting. Look, I expected it to be, this is
morose.
We have a very blessed gig. We do.
No question.
Right? And it's not a hard job, right? There was a thread about they have the easiest job. It's not an easy job because I don't think the person who wrote it could do this job, but it is an easy job, right?
We ain't digging ditches here.
No. Look, we are. Well, the hard part is how to present information and keep people engaged. That is, I think, it's not even hard. It's like some people.
Well, especially when everybody's disappointed with the results, right? And the funniest thing to me is I don't subscribe to this battered Aggie syndrome. In fact, it's my least favorite thing about the fan base. People will walk up to me, they've done it at Bluebell Park, and they're innocent. They're not trying to be provocative. They're not trying to be woe is me. They're like, oh, my BS is flaring up again. And they kind of laugh about it. But to me, the fact that has become such a phrase that has permeated the fan base that everybody knows and everybody uses.
Even people who aren't into sports the way we are. Yes.
Yeah, so I think that is a problem. And look, it's rooted in they're disappointed because they want somebody to finally break through.
It's rooted in reality too.
Hold on. I just don't want, I don't think that's the path to success. And I think, fan base interaction and fan base demeanor and attitude matters very little in terms of wins and losses. But I do think it plays a little bit of a role, especially in times like this, when we're going to have a long summer. And this thing can snowball and get real negative about a lot of different things. And I understand why. But I've never been a subscriber to that line of thinking in my life. So it's hard for my brain. I'm not saying their brains are wrong. I'm saying it's hard for my brain to process it. And I do believe that a different outlook, you can be upset, you can be disappointed in the results. That's completely understandable. But to act like it's always woe is me and everything is the worst now. Why should I even care? Why should I even give money? And that is fatigue. That's fan base fatigue. That's where it's coming from. But my counterpoint to that would be, what's your alternative?
Right.
Your alternative is quit posting about it, quit going to games, quit giving the money. And if you can do all that and you want to do all that, fine, that's your decision. But the constantly going on, and I feel like there's part of our message board and a part of our fan base that uses us, TexAgs, as a therapy session.
Yep.
And they just got to get it off their chest. But I always say this: there's a lot of people that have answers to a test that they'll never have to take, and then the answers on top of that, the answers that they are providing are done under an anonymous username, so you really don't have to stamp your name on your opinion. But they've all got answers to a test they'll never have to take. So there is part of me that's like, I obviously wanted softball to pull through last night. I think Trisha Ford's a rock star. I really do. I hope she's the coach here for a long time.
Yep.
But it was funny to me that a lot of people didn't follow softball throughout the year, and the softball stuff blew up last night.
I did find that interesting. Look, I'm wired this way as a Mr. Fix-It in scenarios. So instead of being, I want to think, all right, what do we do now?
Yeah.
And everything in life, if my kid is struggling in a subject, right? I'll give an example. Matthew Dawson's helped my boys a little bit with physics, right? Because there was a stretch of the year.
Matthew Dawson, physics.
And I probably shouldn't have said it on air, but I did. Matthew is a very smart guy, and they're getting A's, right? They're doing awesome in AP physics, by the way. They're doing awesome. But my point is, when they started doing bad, I don't just I guess you're never going to get it. I am wired to, all right, what do we do now? For softball, I don't know if there's a what do we do now. For baseball, I don't know if there's a what do we do now, but I'm constantly looking at how we can be better as a show, as a athletic program. That's what we do here.
Well, what do we do now for softball? It can be asked, right? Because they're done. When baseball, whatever happens this week in Hoover, when it's over with, if that is the end of the season, then you say, okay, what do we do now? Mm-hmm. And that is a discussion that I think we are going to have plenty once this season's over with. And barring an improbable run in Hoover, there's not going to be a postseason. So for you, it's got to be there's a lot of days in the summer to cover now without much to talk about. And that is difficult, coming up with content and being fresh and creative until we get to football season.
Look, The difficult part, honestly, is
that's really that's not digging ditches.
No,
summer, I sprayed my job. I worked in a metal pipe fitting factory in Nederland, Texas. The refineries would rent our equipment or buy the equipment off of us to go into the refineries and use it, like flanges, pumps, hoses, carbon steel pipe. And one of the things that I had to do 3 days a week was go out into the pipe yard, and I would have to wear this backpack, and it was full of this. It was a chemical compound that you would spray on and coat those carbon steel pipes with, so that they wouldn't erode in the summer.
Yeah.
And that thing was heavy. It was 1,000,000 degrees. It stunk to high heaven. You'd have to throw away the shirt, the shorts, the underwear that you were wearing that day, because the combination of that backpack leaking, again, it was probably weighed to start probably about 80 pounds. And the combination of that and the sweat did not mix well. And so you just burn the clothes, just get rid of them.
Yeah, you're done.
And so I'm not comparing what we're doing to that.
No. Look, and at the end of the day, this is about Aggie athletics, and there's a lot of people I have encountered over the last 12 hours, okay, however long it's been, folks that just want to see Aggie misery, the I told you so Aggies, right? And that's just part of what college athletics brings and all fan bases bring. But I'm sorry if I like people. If I'm a people person. I like Michael Earley, I like Trisha Ford, I like Pat Henry, I like Jamie Moore. I love all these guys. Brian Kortan, you name it, Mark Weaver. Yesterday, this season in Aggie sports has been a very difficult one.
Absolutely. Nobody's arguing that. I don't think it's been the worst, but you could make an argument it's been the most disappointing. Because there were some pretty lean years in the early 2000s with football and basketball where basketball didn't win a game and football was not going to bowls. And I haven't, go year by year with baseball, and I'm sure there is a 12-month period where all those coalesce and none of them make the postseason or none of them have
I think disappointing is the way you phrase it, the right way. And disappointing finishes.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, for softball, they were so good all year. And with these bat and ball sports, just like if A&M had played up to their preseason, expectation, and they were going to be hosting a regional at Bluebell, you have one bad weekend and it's over. And that can certainly happen in these bat and ball sports, just because of the odds and the numbers and how you're really dealing with a mathematical game as much as anything.
So how does Aggie baseball make it interesting? Is it?
I think
do they have to win the whole thing? Do they have to win 3 games?
Win the whole thing, obviously you're in. I think if you win the first 3, then you're going to start seeing Texas A&M go back on that bubble conversation. And why that is important is because there's still some cachet with this team, with this program, starting the year number 1, playing in the finals last year,
beating really good teams this year too.
If they win 3, they'll have beaten 3 really good teams in Hoover. And I think there's some intrigue there that the committee would at least discuss heavily. I'm not saying that A&M would get a gift by the committee, by no means. But what I'm saying is I think 3 kind of gets you back on the table. I was talking to Kendall, and you'll have him on tomorrow, I'm sure. He thinks if they get to Saturday, they got a real shot. That means they have to win 4 in Hoover. And that's a tall task. This team, I don't know if they've won 4 in a row.
I don't know if they've won 4 in a row
all season. Maybe you'd have to go one of those weeks where they won maybe the Tennessee, the midweek, and then the Friday of the next week. Because that was Arkansas. Yeah, that might have been a 4-game stretch there. But yeah, it's a tall task, and how they manage it on the pitching side is going to be super interesting. One thing I do want to say this. There was a disgusting thread on Saturday that involved a lot of personal attacks on a Texas A&M coach on the baseball team. A lot of it was deleted and cleaned up by moderation, and I'm glad that they did. But for people to make personal attacks because they can't get out of their own emotions because they're just mad that Texas A&M lost. That's it. All I know is I'm mad, and I'm going to react with the emotional stability of an 11-year-old that I'm going to try to publicly shame somebody for the way they look and somehow tie that and associate that with their capability to do a job. Disgusting.
Yeah, I agree.
And disgusting behavior. And the only reason you do that is because you're behind an anonymous username. That's cowardly and it's spineless, and I wish it won't end because that's the kind of online toxic culture that goes on nowadays. Everybody will hide behind burners or hide behind usernames, but that is disgusting. And if you're an Aggie and you supposedly hold we hold ourselves to a higher standard with how we interact with fellow Aggies, that is disgusting of the utmost order.
That's why I've become not even a post and ghost. I stay away from a lot of it because I don't need that there's enough negativity happening in the sports.
I have no issue with people talking about being critical of what's going on the field. If you have a problem with the way the hitters are approaching their at-bats, no issue. If you have a problem with the way the bullpen is managed, no issue. If you have a problem with defensive alignment and A&M's ability to make plays on defense, no issue. Be critical. That's fine. But when you start personally going after people, there has to be some sort of delineation. And people were trying to justify it in that thread. Well, you got to understand we're all mad and upset. Really? That makes it okay because you can't control your emotions because you're upset that Texas A&M lost, that you're able to just go after people personally like that? There's no delineation there where you can't say, okay, yeah, that's over the line.
Let me ask you this. We didn't get to it with Coach Earley. We should have. What do you think the pitching rotation looks like?
Yeah, I probably should have asked him. I would think that Ryan Prager is on the table to start tomorrow. He only threw 60 pitches on Thursday. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 60 pitches, 4 days rest. He could probably go. If it's not him, I got to wonder if it's Gavin Lyons or maybe Weston Moss. They're all important. So could it be Caden McCoy and you just try to, get as many outs as you can? If it were me and understanding kind of what's going on with this season, if Ryan Prager feels good enough to throw, I'd hand him the ball.
Because in that scenario, you could technically...
And you could bring him back.
That's my point, right? You could technically, with a Tuesday start, you might see him 4 days later, 5 days later.
And that's the silver lining in that he got beat around in Athens is that he only threw 60 pitches. Really interesting, though, how whatever was going on Thursday night, quit going on Friday and Saturday because Ryan Prager and then Lyons, Cunningham, Freshcorn, their swing and miss was way down. Now, I thought all those right-handers did a good job of getting guys out, but Georgia was not swinging and missing. Not swinging and missing. Justin Lampkin goes out and has, again, one of the most incredible outings I think we've ever seen in Texas A&M baseball history, starting pitching-wise. And then after the game, he didn't beat around the bush. They said, yeah, we know how aggressive they are at trying to tip pitches, so we went back to the hotel and looked at everything and changed things up, and then all of a sudden the swing and miss started appearing a lot more. So very interesting happenings at Foley Field.
Are you hinting at anything?
No, I just say it's interesting.
Just interesting. Huh?
And that the fact that it was brought up in a postgame by the guy that threw a gem makes me think that there was something that maybe they were getting on Thursday in game one that they were unable to get off of A&M on Friday and Saturday.
One last thing on Lampkin, though. Coach Earley said it, and I know you believe it. This guy, he's proven he can pitch at the next level.
Lampkin. And what the cool thing about it is he's always been the same guy in terms of his demeanor, his disposition on the mound. All of that's been pretty consistent since he got here. Where you've seen him make big jumps is kind of like after he throws the pitch and he gets the ball back, how confident he is.
Yep.
And that's only grown, and the stuff's only grown with it. So, yeah, I think for sure he's going to pitch in the major leagues one day.
Thank you, Bronny.
Yep.
All right, when the unexpected happens, whether a car accident, property damage, or business liability, preparation doesn't matter, and that's why I want you to hook up with the Rollo Insurance Group. They ensure that you're properly covered before crisis strikes. Their independent agents provide a consultation across all insurance types, giving you the confidence that the details are handled correctly. They have over 60 offices in Texas, but their headquarters is right here in College Station. The true value of insurance becomes clear in those critical moments when you need to file a claim. Rollo Insurance is going to walk you through each step of the process. They're going to take amazing care of you. And again, they are super local. They love this university. They love this community. And they're going to make sure that you get the exact insurance situation that you need. Don't wait until disaster strikes to discover the gaps in your coverage. Visit RolloInsurance.com/TexAgs or call them up 888-44-ROLLO. That is RolloInsurance.com/TexAgs or call them up 888-44-ROLLO. All right, we're back here on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's do this. Let's give away a pizza. As a reminder, the final segment of the program is brought to you by Double Dave's. That's at 10:50. But right now, caller number 12, 979-693-1150. We're going to hook you up with your choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls or a large one-topping pizza from Double Dave's. They've been serving Aggieland since 1984 with your favorite pizza. And, of course, those world-famous pepperoni rolls, reliable in-house delivery, bringing piping hot goodness straight to your door. Just click on doubledaves.com and your favorites are on their way. As a reminder, they are not open on Mondays. Let's go to the Buppy's Catering Hotline. Tom Hart of the SEC Network with us. Tom, good morning, man.
Good morning. I can use the pizza. Pizza's great.
Double Days is good, man. Double Days is solid. Hey, do you think A&M has to win the SEC baseball tournament to get into the tournament?
No, but I think they need to make it to Sunday. You could obviously remove all doubt by winning it all. Those 3 series wins they have are better than anybody else on the bubble, and they're really impactful when you start comparing resumes to other bubble teams. There's always this disconnect and this uncertainty with what the selection committee is going to do. You know, they've been RPI heavy the last couple of years, and A&M's right around 55 right now. There's never been an SEC team that got in with an RPI over 50. Now, there have been other teams that have gotten in with high RPIs. Those are typically and historically teams that play isolated geographical schedules, West Coast, Upper Midwest, Big Ten, that kind of thing, where it's kind of hard to build an RPI. Not much of an excuse in the SEC. You have a lot of opportunities to get your RPI up simply based on the schedule you play and playing half your games on the road in the conference. That being said, you go on a run, and is this team talented enough to win 4 games? Yeah, very much so. But you know, and Bronny was kind of talking about a little bit, and I'd love to pick his brain more. I think the biggest challenge is the guys who have thrown well for you lately are not going to be available Tuesday and Wednesday. You know, you're not going to get to them until later in the week, and you may have to bump them up a day or two to try and, you know, Prager and Lampkin especially. I mean, that was amazing. You might have to move them up a day or two to try and use them if you can win those first couple of games. And when you do that, that brings more uncertainty to the plate.
Yeah, would you have ever, when they turned the season around, okay, because they did turn it around, did you think, all right, this is the A&M team we signed up for? Did you still think, man, I don't know? Because the way they have finished is, it's just really the Missouri series. The Georgia series I'm not mad about. The Texas series I'm mad about because it's Texas. But that Missouri series makes everything else just almost not count.
It's confounding. The Missouri series just blows my mind. I've never, for a team that was once number 1, and we can argue all day whether or not they should have been preseason number 1, and that's fine. But for a team with this much talent on it that was preseason number 1, I've never seen a meltdown like that. I mean that is I don't even know where Michigan was, but that's Michigan losing to Appalachian State territory right there. That's Virginia losing to Chaminade territory. And I know Missouri's in the SEC. I get it. But to underperform like that at home against a team that hadn't won a conference game was confounding. So I thought, yes, to your question, I thought they were in a great place even coming out of Texas because I thought they were swinging the bats well. And I thought the mentality, and they really competed that weekend, 3 1-run losses, and I know everybody was mad about it, and I get it. But also individually, I looked at it a little bit differently. Ben Royal was, just using him as one example on one end, he wasn't going to stay red hot and not that he was carrying the offense, but he was going to come back down to earth. And that's fine. That's, you know, I think he was overperforming for a stretch there. And that was very helpful, especially in the bottom of the lineup. But Laviolette's been an entirely story altogether. And to be a little bit more specific, coming off of Texas and talking to him around the cage at Texas, I thought, man, this guy's mind is where it needs to be. He is process-oriented. He's not results-oriented in a failure-driven sport, right, where you fail 7 out of 10 times and you make the Hall of Fame. And I really thought he was in a good place. And then I do a deeper dive into the numbers recently, and the 9 strikeouts and 10 at-bats, I mean, whoo. I mean, that's just ugly. Now, I don't want to hear people talk, well, he was talking to himself he always talks to himself at the plate. He always talks to his bat. He gets his mind mentally focused. It's part of his routine. But when you're looking lost physically and mechanically, then, you know, people start wondering about all that other stuff. So I thought they were on the right pace. I thought they had turned things around, and I thought the right guys were playing well and swinging the bat well for them.
How different do you think this roster, this team looks next year?
Drastically different, yeah. But I don't know what the deals are, and I don't know what the contracts look like. I don't know how many guys are, probably a brawny question. Like, are there multi-year deals with some of these guys who have to come back as opposed to leaving and paying the money to leave? I don't have the details on any of that. And I think you have to be concerned with a couple of things in this modern era of college sports. If you try to strip this thing down to the studs, that is very expensive. That is not only expensive from a coaching perspective, but also expensive from a player acquisition perspective. Coaches talk about it all the time. The most efficient way to get good players is to keep good players. That's just how the market works. And then the other side of it, David, is, and this is all new, right? But every dollar you spend on one sport is generally going to come from another, right? It's a zero-sum game. And I know that, real NIL deals are different, but from the rev share agreement, a dollar here is a dollar that's coming from over there. And the football revenue is $85 million. Like, you cannot mess with that side of the street. And that goes for every school in the SEC. You can't mess with that side of the street. And you can't start trying to rob Peter to pay Paul when Peter's the one that pays all the bills. So I think that big picture, that will impact whether or not the turnover is as great as it could be.
Tom, good stuff, man. Thanks very much for your time, buddy.
All right, David.
See you, man.
Thanks, man.
Tom Hart here on TexAgs Live. All right, we'll hit a break. We'll come back with Around Aggieland. Right now, Daily Company, they're a family-owned, licensed, and insured business. They offer HVAC, electrical, plumbing, and generator services 24/7. Those HVAC services include thermostat repairs, refrigerant leaks, furnace failures, and seasonal tune-ups. The plumbing side, you got the leak repairs, the clogged drains, the water heater installation and maintenance to keep those pipes in top shape, electrical wiring, outlet repairs, upgrades for safety and efficiency, and generators, repair, maintenance, and installation to ensure preparedness for power outages. They serve Bryan, College Station, Houston, and Austin. They've got upfront pricing and no surprises. Call them up at 979-2060-2020. That's 979-260-2020. Or visit them online at GoDaily.com to experience the daily difference. Go Daily is DAILEY.com. It's the difference.
All right, we're back. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Time for Around Aggieland, presented by Normandy State Bank. Normandy State Bank, rock solid banking. The website is normandystatebank.com. Callie Garner.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm a little tired. We got back late from Waco yesterday.
That's a hard one to talk about because, like, I'm so proud of what they did, but obviously disappointed. That wasn't about. Yes, it was the ending, but it wasn't the ending of the season. It was just Georgia was the better team this year.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
So,
Yesterday, really, because we beat Georgia
in the
back
SEC. Yeah.
Yeah. So
what do you have for us?
We'll start with women's tennis. The Texas A&M women's tennis team wrapped up another historic season yesterday, finishing as the national runner-up after falling to top-ranked Georgia 4-0 in Sunday's NCAA Championship at Baylor's Hurd Tennis Center. Despite the defeat, the second-ranked Aggies cemented their status as one of the nation's elite tennis teams, making the national title match in back-to-back seasons for the first time ever, and they also are the only team in the country to reach the last 4 NCAA quarterfinals and 6 consecutive Sweet 16s. Georgia took the doubles point and carried the momentum into singles, highlighted by a top-court win as the number 2 player in the country, Dasha Vidmanova, defeated A&M's Mary Soyana in straight sets. The Bulldogs clinched the championship with a 3-set victory on court 6. Mia Kupris went undefeated in the NCAA tournament team and earned all tournament team honors, and she was outstanding. It was really fun to be able to watch her play in person. On the softball front, a seemingly forgettable night at Davis Diamond ended in heartbreak for Texas A&M softball as the top-seeded Aggies were eliminated by Liberty in Sunday's NCAA regional finale. Facing elimination in Game 1, A&M erased a 6-0 deficit and to eventually win 14-11, forcing a decisive winner-take-all showdown last night. KK DeMint, Maya Perez, and Mac Barbara all homered in Game 1, while Sydney Lessentine shut the door late to keep the Aggies' postseason hopes alive. In Game 2, A&M jumped to a 3-0 lead behind another blast from KK DeMint, but Liberty responded with the 5-run 6th inning, highlighted by a pair of home runs to take the lead. The Aggies clawed back to within 1 run on a solo shot from Allie Enright and an RBI infield single from Coco Woolley, but with the winning run on base in the 7th, Liberty ended A&M's season with a 6-5 loss. Texas A&M finished the year 48-11, and they also had an outstanding regular season, so we're sad to see that one end so soon. On the baseball front, also facing Georgia this weekend was the Texas A&M baseball team as they dropped the series in Athens with Saturday's 7-5 loss. Justin Lampkin was easily the highlight of the weekend as he threw his first career complete game shutout, leading the Aggies to a 6-0 victory to force a rubber game on Saturday. The Aggies finished the regular season 28-25 overall and 11-19 in SEC play, and they will open SEC tournament play tomorrow night in Hoover against Mississippi State, a team who the Aggies did not face this season. On the track and field front, a strong weekend for Texas A&M track and field wrapped up with 4 top 4 finishes on both the men's and the women's side in the SEC Championships in Lexington. The Aggie women claimed second place overall with 81.5 points, and the men secured 4th with 77 points. On the final day of competition, A&M added 10 medals, bringing their total to 15. That haul includes 3 golds, 5 silvers, and 7 bronzes in what was a dominant showing at one of the nation's toughest conference meets. The Aggies return home next weekend to host the NCAA West first round in Aggieland. On the golf front, Texas A&M men's golf team is headed back to the big stage. The Aggies punched their ticket to the NCAA Championship with a runner-up finish at the Auburn Regional last weekend, securing their spot for the 4th straight year and the 6th time in the last 7 postseasons. Texas A&M will now compete for a national title at the NCAA Division I Men's Golf Championship as they tee off this Friday in California.
Good stuff, Callie. Appreciate you. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Reese, how's your debut gone?
It's been all right.
Yeah?
I've been reading through some comments and text
Are the
messages.
comments polite in nature? Are they sad? What are they?
There's a few sunshine pumpers, and then there's a few we're never going to be good ever again people.
Yeah. What are you? What team are you on?
I'm somewhere in the middle. Okay. I'm hopeful for the Aggies softball team. Yeah. Baseball, not as much. They've shown promise, but that was a long time ago.
Well, read us a comment then. Let's see. If we have about 40 seconds, let's try to get a good one and maybe not such a great one. They're all bad.
Yeah,
they're all bad.
The top ones are mainly bad.
Just read one that doesn't have a bad word. As we think about it.
Yeah,
we've run out of time.
Yes,
that went well.
Yeah, it
That's
didn't
okay.
go great.
Look, I'm not asking for a positive comment. I'm just asking for a not a mean comment. It's all good, guys. We'll talk about it with Billy when he gets back here on TexAgs Live. We'll have Billy. We'll have Around the SEC. We'll get to your comments. I understand people aren't happy. Neither am I.
We'll figure it out. We as a team, as group therapy, as a think tank, we'll figure it all out together when we come back here. If you want to be a part of that discussion, 979-693-1150. It's TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, welcome back into the program. We call it TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're in the Rollo Insurance Studio. We've opened up the text line. You can vent, 979-693-1150. Reacting to the softball's loss, to A&M baseball losing the series to Georgia, heading into a must-win several games in the SEC tournament scenario to make the postseason. Is it 3 wins? Is it 4 wins? We're about to find out a lot about that. They probably got to win the whole thing, guys. There's some, Ronnie thinks maybe at least get to Saturday. I think they have to win the whole thing. We'll find out as the week plays out. We'll talk whatever else Aggie sports you want to get into when Billy gets in here. Right now, though, it's time for Around the SEC, presented by Jaxer.
And Jaxer is going to help you build your dream home on your lot. The Jaxer Group will help you navigate the entire project from start to finish, making sure your home perfectly suits your lifestyle, your preference, and your budget to turn your dream home into a reality. Visit them at jaxsir.com. That's jaxer.com. It's the Jaxer Group. With that, Nick Savage, what's happening in around the SEC?
Well, we can start with the NCAA softball tournament. No, we probably don't want to talk too much about it, but 9 SEC teams advanced into the Super Regionals. There are actually 3 all-SEC Super Regionals. Arkansas is hosting Ole Miss in their Super. Oklahoma will host Alabama in their Super. And then Florida hosting Georgia in their Super. The other SEC teams advancing: South Carolina coming out of the Columbia Regional, Texas coming out of the Austin Regional, and the Tennessee Lady Vols, I should say, coming out of the Knoxville Regional. So I remember when we were talking to Tara Henry a couple weeks ago, very good chance that there's a good amount of SEC teams winding up in Oklahoma City. Moving over to baseball, the SEC tournament bracket is set. A&M's the number 14 seed, taking on the number 11 seeded Mississippi State Bulldogs. They did not play in the regular season, so that's a new opponent for the Aggies to face down. They're looking probably at like an 8 o'clock first pitch, but you know how that SEC tournament is. That'll probably be closer to like 9 o'clock, and they'll be finishing up their game around midnight, hopefully advancing to the second round where they would play Auburn, who's the 6th overall seed. Obviously, Texas, number 1 overall seed, Arkansas 2nd, LSU 3rd, Vanderbilt 4th. They advance all the way to the quarterfinals, so they got to win 3 games to clinch the SEC tournament title. Tennessee, Georgia, pardon me, let me go back there. Georgia's the 5 seed, Auburn 6, Ole Miss 7, Tennessee 8, then Alabama 9, Florida 10, and then Mississippi State 11. And it just finishes out there. And we'll finish off with this and a little topic for you to chew on, David, until Billy gets here. I don't know how much we've talked about this proposed playoff bracket change, but Ross Dellinger put out a report not too long ago that the latest proposal, I think, that's on the table is 4 auto bids for the SEC and Big Ten. The ACC and Big 12 would get 2 spots each. So the group of 6 would get 1. So there'd be 3 at-large bids. So how do you like that? I'm honestly not too crazy about giving 2 conferences 4 auto bids, even though we all know that those conferences are high and above the others. But again, I'm not too crazy about that.
I think it's it just shows you how bad of a system we have, Nick, right? Like that. All right, we're going to give this conference 4 and this one 4. They're like even if they go, if the 4th best team is 8 and 4, they're going to get in because it's an SEC schedule and it's the Big Ten schedule, and like, but I don't have a perfect solution. Like I don't. Do I think Alabama should have been in the playoffs instead of Indiana? Actually, no, because I think Indiana had the regular season to back it up. But I think if Alabama and Indiana played, Alabama would have mopped the floor with them, right? Like that's. But there's no perfect system. There's no perfect system to it. So when you ask that question, Nick, I don't even know. Like, I think for a 2-year sample size, right? Like, let's try it for 2 years.
Yeah, 100%.
Right, I'm okay with it there. You're going to move to 16 teams. You go for it. That was under the 12-team model or the 16-team model, just to confirm.
16 team.
16 team. So half of the yeah, I think that's probably the right way to do it. Like in Europe for soccer, and I know people get mad when I bring up soccer, but like the big leagues get X amount of teams into that tournament, so that's all part of it. Ladies and gentlemen, we are welcomed by Billy Liucci, the executive editor and co-owner of TexAgs, here on a not glorious Monday, but it is a sunny Monday. Billy, good morning, sir. Good morning. I don't know if you have your mic on. I do not. Oh, my fault. I shouldn't have even said hello to you, but I'm happy you're here. How was your breakfast?
It was good. Although Richard was there.
Oh, okay. Well, Richard's good company. He had a busy weekend in Waco.
I mean, I don't know what that is, but we're going to deal with it.
You're just going to hold it for the segment?
Hold on. Just cut to David real quick.
Yeah,
I'm trying to get situated.
How about we read that last text that came in
Reese, if you don't mind, at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center, give us a moment to settle up.
So Trey and Shiner said, hate to say it, but only us can do what we did yesterday. I'm 4th gen Aggie.
Only us can do what we did yesterday.
I have 3 kids that are 5th. My oldest son is having a hard time dealing with this. Unfortunately, I told him, get used to this.
You know, and by the way, welcome. I'm glad I was, when you interviewed, I watched the interview.
He actually came to me afterwards.
Knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
Went to David and said, we need some LaGrange leopard representation here.
Thank you very much.
So good to have you. Second, I have thought about that in the last 24 hours. Like people, because I have friends, we all do that are like this, where it's like you're wanting your kids to be Aggies, young kids, and you're a proud parent and you bring them to the games, and there's probably that moment where you look at your son or daughter and go, wow, they're fully embracing Texas A&M.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they may end up in Aggie one day, go to school at A&M and follow them. You have that. And then there's got to also be that moment where you have to, look your son or daughter in the eyes and say, yep, this is what it's like. Get ready for a lifetime.
I actually dealt with that this weekend. That conversation happened this week. We lost that? Yeah, we lost.
My friend's dealing with it right now, and he's the most negative one of our group. We got a group chat, and it's Seth and me and a bunch of our mutual friends. I don't want to out any of them, but they as soon as the last out in softball happened, it was like the guy texted, well, or something. And I just sent back a picture of 2 vultures sitting on a cartoon video of 2 vultures, because I'm like,
waiting for the moment.
Well, no, but I'm like, you have never in the history of our group chat, and in fairness, I don't know how many of us did. I think Seth did when we got the number 1 overall seed, but he's never mentioned softball in 25 years of knowing him. Daughter actually plays volleyball at Baylor, so it's that's where it's interesting in the family dynamic, because they've got a younger son who's kind of liking Baylor a little bit. And he's like, well, I'm not going to force A&M on you. Then the kid starts liking Georgia football, and he's kind of hand-picking teams, which might be the way, just to pick secondary teams in each sport. But I'm like, you haven't mentioned softball ever. And here you come. There's a lot of that going on, but there's a lot of legitimate disappointment and frustration. I think for softball, David, it's way more disappointment for the team, for Tricia Ford, for Emily Kennedy, for the program, for the fans of what was at stake. It's more disappointment, because I think anyone in their right mind knows if you're being real, and people, they love, they circulate a clip from me saying last week how good Trish Ford is. This team, this was a letdown this weekend. They were a disappointment. I thought Liberty was really good. I went to both games yesterday. That was a fun day of college sports to watch right up until it wasn't. But it's a disappointing result. It's never happened where the 1 seed has lost in their region. It's 20-year plus. You sit there and go, well, might be kind of recent the way no, it's 20 years. It's a long time for something to never happen. So there's no way to dance around the disappointment. I don't think anyone in maroon and white in that program would come in here and say that wasn't bitterly disappointing and something that's going to linger for them for a long time, because they did. I wasn't wrong and you weren't wrong, and no one was wrong in saying they had a chance to do something really special, but instead they did something. Liberty did something more special.
Well, they did something memorable for the wrong reason.
Well, it's forgettable. It's regrettable, but it's not forgettable. That's the problem. I think that one will linger until they win one. And it is sports. So there's 2 conversations to be had here. One is about softball and women's tennis and these sports that are really good and ascending and look like A&M will be in the playoff, national championship conversation for a while. This team, I know it feels silly to say they won the SEC Tournament championship, especially today, and they had that stupid split because of the weather. But the weather also kept them from sharing the regular season title, which would have actually been legit. It's not like a tournament being cut short. In 3 years, what she's done, you're a dumbass if you don't see that program really rising up. Today is a low day for them, and they shouldn't have lost that series. Do I think the softball should seed 1-32? Do I think A&M should have the 32nd team in their regional? Liberty would have been much higher. Sure, doesn't matter. You got a tough draw. You're playing at home. You're a great team. You went through the whole SEC. They should have won. And I'm still a little surprised they didn't walk the Roop girl, 21 home runs hitting 390 with that base open. She hits the bomb, but that's baseball. That's softball. That's what you're always going to second guess decisions when they don't work. They pitched to her in the first game in that situation and got away with it. So it is the softball conversation is, here it is, devastating loss, extremely disappointing. We'll never know what they left on the table this year. They'll never know. But in women's tennis, look, Georgia was the better team this year. They beat them 3 out of 4. A&M was the second best team in the sport. Aggies, I think, are second they're going to finish second in the SEC, kind of in the all sports thing. It's a distant second to Texas. That's another conversation to be had if we have time for it today. It's a distant second, but they're second out of 16. I know a lot of those sports people, meaning people on social media, people on TexAgs, people walking around in their day-to-day life, like my friend that texted, a lot of those sports people don't genuinely care about until A&M's winning at a really high level. And then along those lines, when they lose, those people come out of the woodworks. But the reality is we're talking about the big three, and it sets the tone for everything. And I would almost say, and I hope Bucky McMillan changes that here, and I hope Aggie fans embrace that, because I want it to be the big three, but it still does feel like the big two around here until people want to hold basketball failings against either a coach or Texas A&M or an athletic director or you or me or whoever. I do want to see this place care more about basketball and make it a true big three rather than, oh, we're going to March Madness. No, we lost in the second round. We suck. But in the big three, A&M has fallen short. They don't, like this year, everyone, we suck. Baseball's been bad. If you don't make the tournament, it's a bad season at any time. At any time, much less with those expectations. Yep. Baseball was bad, has been bad this year. They had a moment where they didn't fool me and you and us. They fooled the whole country. Everyone had them in a regional. Everyone had them as a threat. You people know that are listening. The Vultures say, y'all know that. Everyone had it. And then Missouri happened. And then Georgia, where they played, they played well in 2 of those games. Yeah. But the whole season in its entirety, they were not good. Basketball was solid. Went to second round. I think they fell short. They were 10 minutes from, I think, accomplishing what people thought they should. I wouldn't call that some kind of bitter disappointment. I think it was a disappointing finish. And then football was solid this year. They weren't anything special. There's a difference. There's a big difference. I think they were solid in year one of a head coach. In year one of a head coach, I would say it was a good season. Promising. Terrible finish, though. And that's the problem. Softball was incredible this year. Terrible finish. Football, I heard you and Olin, and Olin's right, and you're right. Football was a 8-4, from 7-5 to 8-4, and the way they went about that 8-4, getting to 7-1, winning 2 couple top 10 games, getting the hopes up, but then 7-1, you were the last remaining undefeated team in the SEC, and then you lost, your last, 3 SEC games and a bowl game. So the finish left a completely different taste in your mouth. Then came, basketball. We just talked about it. Baseball's the only team, though, that was bad out of the, softball, bitterly disappointing. It's the finishes that are frustrating Aggies and me and you. I get it. Like, I was there last night along with several thousand people. I watched it. I felt really bad for the girls and for the coaching staff, and I was pissed off. Like, you get pissed off because you're like, that's another failure at the finish line. And, baseball, even last year, they go to the national championship series and lose. And a lot of people, as time went on, I felt like we're holding that against that team, which I thought was insane. I think that was more slosh related and frustration and kind of a despair, lack of hope than reality. But like, these programs, baseball was as close as you get. Softball looking great. I think volleyball, well, they were Sweet 16 last year. Again, kind of an agonizing finish, but they had already overachieved. But that loss to Wisconsin was gut-wrenching, the way that thing went down to keep them from the Elite Eight. So we're getting used to these kind of heartbreaking setbacks. But I think, man, the real focus, it's twofold right now. Everybody today is talking about what you're really frustrated about is the big three. And then the second part is, talking about A&M athletics. What's wrong? Culture had nothing to do with Aggie softball losing yesterday. If you think them losing was an athletic department culture issue, you're projecting. It's just like the dumbasses that will say TexAgs gaslit them into believing. Believing in what? A softball team that the whole country ranked number 1 going into this tournament, ahead of Oklahoma, ahead of Tennessee, ahead of That's what the rest of the country did. Not him, not anyone here. It's not our fault you got your hopes up. Were we wrong in believing A&M baseball was going to be good? Yes. Guess what? So was the entire country. Cover of Baseball America, number 1 ranking in, I think, every poll. Were we wrong did we do a disservice to you as a fan when Texas A&M won, 4 out of 5, 5 out of 6, 4 out of 5 series, including those big time wins, when the entire world of college baseball had them in a regional, had them as the team you don't want to see? I saw people bagging on Ross Stripling for saying teams don't want to see them in a regional. That was the week before they played Missouri. That was what all of college baseball was saying, and rightfully so. So there's nothing wrong with getting hopes up when they should be at a certain level. And you look, and baseball fell woefully short this year. Hopefully they can turn it around starting tomorrow night. They're at their last chance. It seems incredibly unlikely. It's almost like the only reason you think it can happen is because sports. But in a world where Liberty can come in and beat A&M, but sports. But it's Texas A&M softball did not lose because of culture. Some of you guys, like I said, you project when you get angry. And most people can handle themselves, David. They can go about their lives. They don't feel the need to lash out at everyone and project and act like an infant. And they can still be really pissed off, really frustrated, voice their complaints, say what they think's wrong, argue with people, but rationally.
Right.
But too many people project, and they're doing it to softball. That team actually was exactly what you say you want. They fought their asses off. They were down 6-0 in they lost a game, 6-0 in an elimination game, took the lead, disastrous 9th inning, down to their final pitch, got out of it, won the game, came back, played a great game, then fell behind, almost came back again. You know, that team is what will get you out of this crap that you're talking about, that I acknowledge it. You like that crap that we all hate, which is not getting that breakthrough, having everyone, you know, the day after, nationally, your fans, rival fans, everyone say, what's wrong with A&M? Why can't they get it done? It's a legitimate question. And we want to answer that question emphatically and shut people up. And you were one run away from or 2 runs, I guess, from doing that, really like 2 or 3 innings away from doing that in game 2 in Omaha last year. We got our hopes up that you could do it. I think maybe unreasonable hopes that you could do it in football this year with the way they started. I don't know where hopes were in basketball. Did we ever? I
think we had hope for a Sweet 16 Elite 8.
Yeah, but I don't think people I didn't get the feeling that a lot of the fan base truly bought into that. I think it was more hopeful. I think they were, truly bought in that we almost got it done in baseball. And that's why this softball one hurts today, David, because so many people really believed, hey, we could go win this. And it's different than women's golf, and it's different than even track. It's different than a lot of, tennis. No offense to what Weaver and them, that's incredible what they've done. I'm about to mention them. But it's different because softball is one of those, along with women's basketball, they're the highest profile women's sports in terms of how much they're on TV, even more so than a lot of the, let's call them, quote, country club or Olympic men's sports.
Yeah.
So people were getting gassed up for it. The bandwagon was building, and everybody was excited about what they could do. And then it was just this big thud this weekend. But Trisha Ford and Jamie Morrison and Mark Weaver and Jared Chadwell, sorry, Garrett. But those coaches, and I know, again, you don't want to sit there and go, well, we're really good at all these sports except football, basketball, and baseball. And I thought Slosh had them there in one of the big 3. And that is, I do think that is still, there is a great deal of residual frustration and angst because no one in their right mind, all of us believed not only would A&M win a national title with him here, but probably multiples.
Yeah.
And I think we all know that, and especially with the way baseball season's gone this year here in Austin, that it's left kind of a dark cloud, doom and gloom over things that you have to snap out of, and none of these sports have been able to snap A&M out of it. But that core group of coaches I talked about, I know if you take those individually, a lot of you are not going to want to, oh yeah, heck yeah, that's it, yeah, perfect. Well, we're good in volleyball or softball. We're a softball school, and we're a women's But you got to understand what I'm saying. You guys want to use the C word, and you want to talk about culture. I'm a firm believer that winning begets winning, and it's got to start somewhere. And Weaver's won it, and some of those coaches, they're going to break through and win it. And, look, we got to fast track football. Bucky's going to have, I think, a year of grace, and then they need to hit that ground running. Baseball's very much up in the air right now. I think, these next couple weeks are going to be really, I say couple weeks, maybe in the next week and a half are going to be really interesting around here, on what Trev decides to do with the direction of the baseball program after 1 year of Coach Earley. I'm not fooling. Mike Earley sitting there, he's got to know, there's a decision that the AD is going to be making in the next week or so. Maybe or maybe not what happens in Hoover affects it. And either way, but that core group of coaches is going to start to change culture. And Trisha Ford, even though they lost last night, that was a letdown, really disappointing. But what they showed was the culture it is going to ultimately take. Now, they didn't execute in certain players, certain moments, certain games, they didn't execute. Again, it was a letdown. It was a failure out there for them as a team to not get out of their regional. But that team is going to be, and that coach is going to be part of what fixes what you're talking about. And you talk about, I'm sorry, we're going long. Go ahead. We're going to break.
10
I
minutes
want to
late.
talk about, I don't even care. We should just do this show on TexAgs, honestly. But I want to talk about athletic department-wise. Like, where are they at right now?
All right, we'll do that on the other side. Right now, Milliken Reserve farm-to-table community in College Station, homes, trails, farms, wide open spaces with a mission to build a healthy community. If you haven't been by Milliken Reserve, you're missing out. It's a great place to go connect with your family and with nature. You can go hiking, you can go biking, you can go canoeing, you can go fishing, you can go to the kayaking. You can do it all, right? You got horseback riding, you name it. Everything is great at Milliken Reserve. It's a great place for your family just to connect, be together. If you don't have a home there, no biggie. You just go to hang out. If you are looking for a home, great neighborhoods there in Milliken Reserve. They provide a natural setting for people to connect and come together. The website is millikenreserve.com. That is millikenreserve.com.
Here, just call for Luke.
And we're back. TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio.
Luke, not only we task him with covering softball, and he takes down the entire season in 2 days, but he's also now back there yelling, probably about something involving the New York Giants.
We have to continue talking about the athletic department overall and where we're headed. But I do want to get a text before we talk to that in the next segment. Reese, what do you have for us at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center?
We have a text from Tom St. Martin saying, should we be more upset about the whole 2024-25 sports debacle or more hopeful about the future with the new coaching staffs and their projection and progress so far?
Up to you. You know, it's up to however you want to be. I would definitely sit here today and be like, man, that was a really disappointing sports season. Baseball was one of the bigger letdowns ever since I've been covering it, and most unexpected. Softball, the finish, obviously. Football, again, I will disagree. I think there's plenty of reason for hope and optimism, both with what you saw on the field, young quarterback with a chance to make a big leap, what Elko's doing in recruiting, how he's handled the portal, kind of where you're looking at where NFL talent within the program is this year versus you watch the two drafts, watch the two combines. They've really started to flip that, like the amount of NFL football players they'll have out there in their last year of college football this year versus a year ago. And then just knowing kind of how he runs things day to day, just from ongoing conversation and just kind of observing, listening, asking. Football, I think, is in a good place. Nothing is guaranteed. It's not like that first year was like lay down, slam dunk, done. But I like where football's at. But basketball, you know, it was a disappointing finish, and then you change coaches. And so I could not be more jacked up about Bucky McMillan.
Yeah, me too.
People hate that. Like, it's the same people that are excited and are tweeting Bucky ball. And then if they have a struggle this year, they'll be the first ones to say, oh, you guys said it was the greatest hire ever. No one said that. I'm excited about the hire. I was excited about the Mike Earley hire. I was excited about the Slosh hire. No one's talking about that. You know, I think myself and everyone were excited about the Jimbo hire. So you're going, well, why aren't a lot of these working? And that's the question people are asking today. And it's a legitimate question. My thing is, you got to go to the break. So that's what I want to talk about coming back. Like, what have they been doing wrong, and how do you fix it?
All right, we'll do that on the other side. It's TexAgs Live. Right now, we're talking about agricultural families. They understand something that city folks don't understand. I'm talking about Heritage Films here because life moves seasons, and each one matters. And they've developed a new product to tell that story about the farm and the ranch. It's called Farm and Ranch Films. If you own one, if you have one, you know what that ranch means to your family. It's the newest offering from Heritage Films. They bottle those moments before they're gone. Imagine your grandchildren see not just what your operation looks like, but understanding the principles that it was built on. Chance McClain and his team don't just film interviews, they create cinematic legacies with a Netflix quality production. From daily routines to the once-in-a-lifetime moments, they capture what makes your agricultural story unique. What you need to do is reach out to Chance McClain directly and talk to him about telling your family story, right? The family business, the family ranch, the family story. Don't wait until it's too late. Visit yourheritagefilm.com. Click on Farm and Ranch at 713-893-8341. It's Heritage Films.
Beach Boys on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Billy Liucci, David Nuño. Billy, we left it with, all right, what now? How do we fix it? How do we move forward? That's kind of how we left it at the end of the last segment.
Well, I think the thing is, there are two things that have to happen. And I've said, people, this thing of like, oh, you call people out. I've been saying this for a long time. There are too many chefs in the kitchen here at A&M. That's historically, to me, been a problem. When almost every coach, every administrator, I don't say athletes. I think the athletes tend to really have a tremendous experience here. And this is an underrated place. You talk to people that come and play here, people that leave and transfer and go somewhere else. People can doubt me on this. I've been doing this for literally, it's the only job I've done. I've talked to hundreds of people that have come from other schools, that have left here. The athlete experience generally, and there's always exceptions, but the athlete experience I think is terrific. And so is the commitment around here to making it be that way. And again, there's exceptions. There's periods of time where it's probably, where the administration is not supported like they should, but they're generally have been terrific when it comes to the athletes. Administrators, coaches, everyone. When I talk to people around the country that haven't been to A&M, oh wow, that coaches, big time college football, basketball, baseball coaches, man, that place must be great. But when they come and leave, there's a couple things that are common thread. They really miss the community and the people. When they get here, they're blown away by the facilities. Again, the people and what they see. Mm-hmm. Wow, this is incredible. This is even coming from bigger places. I know people that have come from Georgia, from Alabama, that have come to A&M and go, wow. But when they leave, and I've told people this, what people don't get, this, I talk every day about this crap to people from this level all the way up to the top of the chain. Every day I spend periods of time of my day trying to discuss this, trying to help in whether it's this much or significantly change the end result, which we want to be championships. We want to be coaches that stay. I say this all the time to them. Everyone that leaves, you'll say that's a really, it's a special place, but it's different over there. And those are the nice way to say it. Some of them will say, it's a S show, crap show, when they're heading out. So you can dismiss that and go, well, that person's grumpy because they got fired, or that person's mad because they didn't get their AD picked, or that person. Or you can look at that and say, there's got to be some level of truth in that. And that's the bad news. The good news, and this is what the malcontents don't want to hear, and this is where they'll tune me out and go, oh, well, because I said the part they want to hear, but now I'm going to say this. People are aware of that here now, like higher ups. I've said it before, president, AD, head coach, you can, whatever you think of Welsh, Alberts, Elko, you can have whatever opinion you want, doesn't matter. I'm saying they're in alignment.
They're aligned, yeah.
And the people that I know on the board recognize the reputation that's out there, because when A&M has tried to hire coaches here, more specifically recently, there is a stigma, there is a reputation. And I told one of them the other day, like, as a leader, and I trust that this person is that type. I believe in them. They're like, I'm like, as a leader in the position, and those people I mentioned, I mean, Elko's job is to go coach and win football games and develop those kids. But the leadership structure right now, like if you're here right now in 2025, I think your two primary goals are to continue to have a true chain of command. Don't have people wondering whether it be coaches or if Trev Alberts gets here, is it this entity I need to please or ask for something, or is it this group, or is it 12th man, is it association, is it the board, is it, if you're a coach, is it Trev, do I go to this donor or that donor, where do I go? That's a conversation Buzz had with me, I think the day after Slosh left. But people recognize that now that are in power, and I said it as recently as the other day, like, it's y'all's job now that you're here to accept that narrative or that stigma, accept that that's the way it's been, to probably an exaggerated level, but still there's always truth in that. So you have to acknowledge that and go, okay. But the people in charge now, it's their job to, when they're done, to make sure that doesn't exist anymore. And the fact that I think that's acknowledged and being attacked is why I'm encouraged. But that is not an overnight thing. So you hire coaches like the one that's probably the most disappointed person in this town today, in Tricia Ford. You hire a Jamie Morrison, who's, by the way, getting married this weekend, so congratulations to Jamie, and what he's doing with volleyball. You hire people like Weaver and Chadwell, and I think, look what the Pat Henry hire. It's just like, my point of saying this is, get great coaches. Whether they're young and unproven, whether they're veterans, like if you hire Jimbo Fisher, it either works or it doesn't.
Yeah.
It should have worked and it didn't, so it's a bad hire. But you make good hires. Like Texas took a shot on Steve Sarkisian. I say took a shot because he failed at 2 other spots. He wasn't a head coach. There were real questions, but whoever it was, probably L-Type and those regents down there, they believed in it. They gave him all the support. And if he would have failed, he would be out of here by now. But instead, it's the opposite. You have to do that. LSU did that with Brian Kelly. It's worked. Sometimes they're unhappy about it, but A&M does it with Jimbo, and it didn't.
Right.
All you can do, though, as these decision makers and the AD and stuff, is you have to give those coaches everything they need to succeed, but you have to make good hires. So we're too early in the Elko era to, judge that, good, bad, or indifferent. I said earlier, I'm encouraged. Bucky McMillan hasn't coached a game here. We went all through that. Like, they swung and missed at Chris Beard, which is what people wanted them to do, is take that biggest of swings. They got Bucky McMillan. There's a million examples in college basketball, people with Bucky's resume. There's several in the current SEC.
Yep.
I could give you a bunch that have succeeded. One just won a national title. I could give, and the other one was Bama Final Four. Yeah, in the Final Four. The other one won the national title. And I can give you a bunch that failed. So you have to trust that your process, and we're early in the Trev process, and that's what he's going to be judged on. He's going to be judged on guys like Bucky. Whether he sticks with Mike Earley or gets a mulligan and changes that, he's going to be judged on what he does with Aggie baseball, because that is so important to so many people here. And again, that's why I'm saying these next 10 days or so, what he decides is going to really swing how people view Trev. It's going to be how A&M handles the revenue share NIL moving forward, and it's going to be, I think, a ton on this baseball and basketball hire. And so time will tell, but I think the key, and I've said this before, it is hiring the right coaches and giving them what they need. I think A&M's got the give them what they need part. I think they're doing a great job on that front, but you've got to hire the right guys or women for the job. And it is, someone brought up Tennessee recently, and I said they were in a 10-year desert, and now look at them, because they got Heupel, Barnes, and Vitello.
All right, we'll continue on the other side, potentially go a little bit long. Right now,
we're going long.
We're going long. If your wheels have been damaged by potholes, curbs, or medians, go see the experts at Brazos Valley Wheel Repair. Don't replace those damaged rims. Repair them. The experts there have over 2 decades of experience. They're always making sure that your wheel is returned to perfectly safe working condition. They road force balance all their wheels to make sure you have the smoothest, most safest possible ride. If your wheels are in good shape, but you want a fresh, new look, the pros at Brazos Valley Wheel Repair can create a custom look that will transform your car or truck, and every cosmetic repair comes with a limited lifetime warranty. What you need to do is check them out. You can go straight to their location, 508 Burnett Street in Bryan, or go to the website, bvwheelrepair.com. That is bvwheelrepair.com, or in person, 508 Burnett Street in Bryan. It is Brazos Valley Wheel Repair. Here we go. Final segment of TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Because we haven't finished talking about stuff, we're going to do an extended session of the show.
Always do. Now that
TexAgs
we've got the rogue shop.
Overtime. We'll have that here in a few seconds. If you're listening on the Zone, continue listening to Louie and check out TexAgs Premium Board.
Could have used some rogue shop gummies last night.
Yeah, you had a hard time sleeping?
No, I'm just saying, just be like, oh, goodness, softball.
Good night.
Yeah.
So we'll do that, and I'm sure we'll get some football stuff to get into there on the overtime as well. That's going to do it for TexAgs Live here on a Monday. Tomorrow on the program, Nick, what do we have? We have Shireen Williams. That I know. Anything else? Pretty much it for
Josh
right now.
Pate.
We'll work on it. Oh, yeah, Josh Pate. How about that?
Oh, yeah.
That and more is TexAgs Live. See ya mañana.